Hi, Dad. Welcome back to another episode of Dave and Andy's Honest About Life. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Andy. I hope you're doing well as well.
I am. Thank you for asking. So, uh, gosh, you know how much I enjoy this time with you and learning about, your childhood. Some of the things that you went through, and so it's how it's formed you, how it's turned you into the person you are today. And so I have a couple of questions that are always, at least in my opinion, always interesting. The ones about where were you when? These are things that certainly happened before I was born or when I was very young. So if you don't mind answering a couple of these questions.
It sounds like fun, but before you get to that, I just wanted to say I've had several parents talk to me and friends talk to me and saying how good this is that they get to experience how you and I react, and they wish that they had chatted with their kids.
Yeah.
They're older now and their kids are gone. They haven't had this opportunity, but they're going to take an opportunity now to connect once a week as we do, or once a month or whatever. And I think that's one of the positives I hope that comes out of this.
Yeah, and that's all we're trying to do is remind people that that they need to connect with loved ones, especially in today's day and age where
Yep.
connectivity is going to get us all back in good health and
Yep.
and all of that.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, buddy, but let's go on.
I'm glad you said that. I was hopeful that was at least some of the
It's
results.
definitely the case.
Yeah. So where were you when? So one question, the first one is, where were you when JFK was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963? You were a young boy, but do you remember where you were?
I know exactly where I was. I was out on the playground at Lovell Elementary School in Circle Pines. And I remember, the class was outside just playing. We were playing trench ball, I think we called it, where you throw a ball at another person. And it's kind of like dodgeball nowadays. But I remember the teacher coming out and just like crying in tears, said what had happened. And at that point, they didn't know if President Kennedy had been shot and killed. They knew that he was in the hospital, in the emergency room, and we hadn't found that out yet. But we all just kind of gathered together out in the recess area outside, and we just listened to the news on radio. At that time, we were listening to the news on the radio about what had happened, and that's a memory that I'll never forget, because it was so everybody. I mean, it literally affected everybody.
Do you think it affected you to the point where you think differently about what it means to be a president and the risks that they have to deal with on a daily basis? Do you think that affected you in that way?
Yeah, it changed. Well, as we all know, it changed the way presidents never were out in the open like that anymore. And even the Pope, has his Pope mobile with glass,
Plexiglass.
Bulletproof glass. And the same with presidents now. They don't sit on the back of a convertible and wave at the crowd. It changed everything. And I think it just made us all realize that there is a lot of danger out there, and unfortunately, it just made us a lot less. What do you say? What's the word? A lot less comfortable outside.
Yeah,
a lot less comfortable in our surroundings, because we're always worried about stuff. And now, as we've known, the mass shootings that have gone on. It definitely makes you think when you're in a large group. It makes you think about stuff like that, which I never, as a kid, I never thought about it until that happened. That on that day, that things really started to change.
Yeah, I imagine it was pretty impactful for your parents too.
Yes.
It was a day that changed a lot.
Yeah.
Another one for you. What were you doing when Elvis Presley died, August 16th, 1977? You remember where you were when you found out he died? You were obviously old enough to remember that.
Yeah, 77. So I was 23. I started at KSTP, and I do remember, all of a sudden, all the news stories became all about that, and they were just showing the life of Elvis Presley. So it dominated the news, I think, for a while after that happened. I don't know exactly where I was when it happened, but I know I was at KSTP, and I know that it changed a lot of the way the newscasts were going in at least a week afterwards. It must have, it continued to be brought up over time, but it was interesting to see how people speculated about, how this happened. And there were some believers and some followers of Elvis that thought that he wasn't dead, thought that didn't happen. And now he's hiding out, so it was just an interesting time, very interesting.
Yeah, you see him all the time, right? You see him conducting weddings. You see him jumping
Yeah,
on
yeah,
planes.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. He's out
really,
there.
he's doing fine.
Exactly.
Were you a fan of Elvis's music?
I was. I think everybody in that era was. Um, you know, his lifestyle kind of took away from the beauty of his music, I think. His lifestyle just changed to the point of, it was just unhealthy.
He
Even
was a bit of
looking
a,
at him, it was unhealthy.
it's like a sex symbol. It was a little too early, too soon for that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Who, before we end this session, who was your favorite? Who was or is your favorite band?
Oh, that's a good one. I know yours, and I think yours was Tesla for a while.
I am a big fan of Tesla. I really am. We caught one of their concerts in Maplewood, Minnesota, at the Myth. I think was a small concert venue, and boy, was that fun. We had great seats, and I think you remember that.
Yep, I do. And I think one of my favorites right now is Train.
Really?
I like their style of music. It's just, it's not rock, but
Yeah,
it's very, very good pop.
it is good. It is good. Well, thank you, Dad, for reliving some of those moments, and I'm glad you remember what you were doing on those dates. I have a lot more, and we can get through those in time. But
I hope we
wonderful
do.
to see you, Dad. Thank you for spending this time with me.
I love you, buddy.
Love you, Dad.